Welcome back to the Full Armor of God series. And I mentioned some of this on every one in case you just jumped in and grabbed this one. But the full armor of God is simply and correctly just that. It's God's armor, it's not our armor. We learned in the first one where our armor is just like filthy rags. Filthy rags won't stop anything. Our armor has to be the armor of God that He lends to us to protect us and help us fight on the spiritual battle, on spiritual things, everyday life, spiritual things, everyday um, life, thinking correctly, etc., and on and on and on. Today we are talking about the shoes of the preparation of the gospel of peace. Now, why would you put peace down shoes? Why wouldn't you put it up at the head? This is where my thinking goes, and my thinking goes wild and crazy. And that, why not the helmet of peace? And uh, the shoes of salvation or something. It. But I think as we go through this, you will see that if we compare, like we have been, the Roman armament to what Paul is talking about in Ephesians 6, starting at verse 10 and down through, this is where the armor of God, uh, Paul brings up and puts it all together. It's important to read that and read that and read that and know it and study it and let it become part of you. Ephesians 6, starting at verse 10. So the shoes, let's look at quickly at the shoes of the Roman. So obviously, if you're a foot soldier, your shoes are very important. If you have really hard, flat sole shoes, then then your feet are going to be hurting, and you're going to. I mean, have you ever stepped on something? I mean, think about it. Nowadays, it's Legos. My day, it was jacks that you stepped on, them pointy jacks things. Um, but have you ever stepped on one of those? And I mean, it goes straight to the brain, and you're like, oh my gosh, and you're hopping around on one foot, and that. So the shoes were very important. It was the base of the soldier. It was he had to have that to have good footing. Imagine a soldier going into war and with bare feet. All the little rocks, all the pebbles, all the sharp stuff that you're going to step on, that you're trying to fight somebody, is going to be screaming at you when your feet slams down on a pointed rock or a stick or something. So it was very important, the shoes, so that the soldier could concentrate on the battle that was in front of him, not the battle that was going on his terrain, because they didn't fight in nice, you know, football field, turfed fields. They were rocky, they were hot, they were sharp things, and that. So the shoes were very, very important. Some of the Roman shoes actually had spikes that went through, kind of like golf spikes, um, that did a couple things. One is they could, sink those in the ground and give them more stability, in that they couldn't get pushed and slip. It could also be used as a weapon. If a person got, really close, you spike them. So the shoes were very, very important to the Roman soldier. And I think about my era. I missed it. But in Vietnam, there was a lot of guys who got what's called, well, it's not just Vietnam, it was Vietnam, it was World War II, it was all of them, what's called trench foot, in that because their socks would get really, really saturated, that it would actually start to break the tissue of the feet down and create sores. Well, if you have a sore, it hurts, and so it was very, very important for a soldier to take care of his feet because that gets you where you need to go. So that's the importance of um, the shoes, but the preparation of the gospel of peace. So if you look at the Greek word peace, the English translation of that is irene, irene. And this had several concepts. Obviously, one is peace, but also quietness, rest, harmony, tranquility. And to me, if you're starting with peace and you get to tranquility, you've gone a long way with peace. You've gone a long way down the road. Like tranquility would be the ultimate peace in my thinking. But the quietness and the rest and the harmony is all encompassed in that word, irene, of peace. And we know that the gospel is the good news of peace. So the gospel, which basically that means good news, the gospel is the good news of peace. So why peace? Have you ever known a person who seemed to be going through a lot, and that their world is just being rocked? Maybe loss of job, maybe death of a close family member, maybe they lost everything in a fire, maybe uh, monetarily they lost everything, and maybe their car got repoed or they had to move out of their house. Have you ever known anyone to be going through that? And when you talk to them, there's just this peace about them, that nothing seems to rattle them, nothing seems to make it more important than where the person is right now. If you ever run into a person like that, get next to them and really find out how they maneuver through this, how they handle it, how where is it all rooted in? Because peace is a wonderful thing. Our lives are chaotic. Going here, going there, doing this, doing that, going somewhere else, doing other things. This person wants our attention, that one. But when you get to a point where all you want is peace, and you get to that point where you have peace, that's more rewarding than having all the money in the world, having fancy cars, house, great job, everything. If you have peace, then pretty much anything can come at you and it's not going to move you. Thus, the shoes of the preparation of the gospel of peace, the good news of peace, that is a foundation. That's a foundation of Christianity of having a foundation of peace, a rest, a quietness with God, with Jesus, with the Holy Spirit, and staying in that. And remember, this is God's armor. This is God's shoes of the gospel of peace. They're His. So once you get your feet into it, don't take them out. Stay in there, because the peace of God passes all understanding. We can't even comprehend His peace. Um, if and really, you have to sit and just think about God's God's peace and what that actually means. When Jesus was here, He said, "Come to me, and I will give you rest," which is also peace. I will give you rest. I will give you peace. Come to me. Come to me. And that whole concept is coming to me, giving me your burdens, giving me everything. Let me take that on, and you just stand in my peace, in my rest. In John 14:27, Jesus said, "Peace I leave you, my peace." Imagine Jesus' peace. Now, He was here, He was ridiculed. They attempted to kill Him multiple times and never were successful because it wasn't His time yet. Um, and He's saying, "Take my peace." Well, you went to the cross. That wasn't peaceful. That was by no means peaceful. There was turmoil. There was pain. There was anguish. There was your Father turning His back on you. It was not peaceful whatsoever. But through all that, Jesus knew that His peace, just like ours, His peace is from God. And if you have God's peace, you got it all. The problem is we like to take the shoes off. You know, um, Trouble comes our way. You pick what that trouble is. It could be any numerable things comes at you. Do you put your feet in the shoes? And these shoes, the Roman shoes that were laced up, so they didn't come off. They weren't slides or flip flops or anything like that that would that they could easily slip out of because that's their foundation. These were shoes that once you put them on, they weren't coming off unless you took them off. And that's what we need to do with Jesus' peace, God's peace, is put our feet in them shoes, and then let the high water come and keep our feet in the peace. John 14:27, peace I leave you, my peace I give you, not as the world gives it, which is temporary peace of jobs, money, roof over your head, food, car, all this bank account, stuff like that. Not those things. Not as the world gives, do I give to you. Do not let your heart be troubled, nor fear. And that's what happens, and that's what a lot of times makes us take our foot out of the shoe is we have trouble and we have fear, and we're like, oh no. And instead of going, okay, well, you know, the Bible also says that God works things out um, for good for me, that He is on my side, that Nobody can stand against me, um, but I have to keep my foot in the shoes. Jesus gives us true peace, the kind uh, the kind of peace that they're in a boat. The disciples are in the boat. The, most of the disciples, not all of them, but most of the disciples were fishermen. They knew boats, they knew storms, they knew good, they knew bad. Seasoned people in a boat going across the lake, going across the sea. Here we go. Big storm comes up. The waves, they're getting tossed. Water's coming in over the boat. Jesus is sleeping. And they're like, doesn't he care? We're going to perish. We're dying. This is it. We're history. We're done. This is it. We're out of here. But look at him. He's just sleeping there. And then, of course, Master, don't you care? We're about to perish. And here's the peace. This is tranquility. This isn't peace. This is a step past peace into tranquility and harmony. He gets up, stands up in the boat, and says, "Peace be still." And the storm stops. And these guys go, "Did you see that?" And then they were talked about it and it was like, he is a son of God. I mean, look, this just doesn't happen. That's the kind of peace that we need in our life. That's the kind of peace that you slide your feet in the shoes. The peace that the world is tossing and turning and the wind's blowing and it's just turmoil. Have we had turmoil recently? Yeah, we've had turmoil. Lots of turmoil. And Jesus stands up in the boat and says, "Peace be still." And it calms. Romans 10:15 says, "How beautiful are the feet of those who bring good news of good things." How beautiful are those who bring good news, peace, understanding in times of turmoil, in times when your world is being rocked. Put on your shoes of peace. Rely on Jesus' peace, the peace that he gave us. He gave us peace, not the world's peace. Don't even try that, because as soon as the turmoil comes, that peace is out the window. But my peace I give you. The peace that I had when I went to the cross, the peace that I had when they were beating me, the peace that I had knowing that my Father is on my side. Stay in that peace. Keep your feet in the shoes. Our next is the shield of faith. Again, if you like this, hit the little like button, share it with people, and we will continue the study of the full armor of God.